Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to IBR. I want to introduce you to a couple of my colleagues, my sisters in Islam, who are actively engaged in promoting Islamic education movement in Nigeria. Welcome, my sisters. I'd like you to tell me a little more about the initiatives that you are taking in the New Horizons College, which are over and above the national curriculum that you obviously expect all the children to follow.
In New Horizons College, we offer subjects that go in line with the national curriculum, but those subjects we feel are not sufficient for what the school stands for. We look more towards going beyond what people would call traditionally academic subjects. So some subjects have been injected into the teaching methods. We teach world history, world geography, so students know where countries are placed, where continents are, how they are connected. And students also learn about what has happened before and what's also going on in the contemporary world. The students also learn Islamic perspectives. That's a subject where they are taught to look at the world around them from the Islamic perspective. What does Islam say about this? What does Islam say about that? They look at science from the Islamic point of view, creation, how animals are designed, how everything is divinely designed. So they merge the facts of science with knowledge of Islam, and the two are blended together in Islamic perspectives. Islamic perspectives doesn't just touch on science, they also look at human interaction. And over the last year or so, we've been trying to evolve Islamic perspective itself and bring in some contemporary issues such as conservation of resources, animal rights, and we look forward to even including Islamic economics and finance, because in Nigeria that's slowly gaining more popularity.
I can see that people would understand the world history, world geography, because you felt there's a gap here. Children don't know, as you said, the capitals of the various countries and what have you. And you looked at the gap and then you tried to fill it. With world history, world geography, I understand that, and I think our viewers will understand that. But the Islamic perspectives is a special subject. This sounds interesting. What was it that was missing, did you think, before you introduced Islamic perspectives?
Okay. The gap that Islamic perspectives was designed to fill is the fact that some bodies of knowledge were divorced from religion, where someone might learn something about how animals are created, for instance, creation or reproduction, and they learn it purely as science. The fact that these things are divinely designed, are decreed by Allah, is never part of what they learn. So they are now taught this same scientific facts from the Islamic perspective. It doesn't stop them, however, from learning anything in biology or physics or integrated science. They still do those subjects as part of the national curriculum. This aspect of Islamic perspective is not meant to fill a gap. So it's a subject in itself, and for every year there is a particular area they focus on. GSS 1, for instance, that's the very first year, they focus on science in a very basic way. By the time they go into GSS 2, then they do a bit on Islamic manners, etiquette, conduct, morals. Then when they go into GSS 3, they do a little bit more of that's what I call the more human interaction type of thing, conservation of resources, Islamic economics and finance, human rights. They even also cover things to do with peer pressure, peer influence, how to interact with neighbors, with friends, with family. Then SS1, they then do more advanced science. So it's a special subject. So
if I want a world history teacher or a world geography teacher, I know where to go. There are qualifications, there are people who are qualified and trained and have an in-depth knowledge and understanding of those subjects.
Yeah.
Where did you find the Islamic perspectives teacher?
Okay, that's interesting. The Islamic perspectives teachers that we've had so far are people who have indicated interest in teaching the subject, primarily.
Are they alims and alimas?
Not in the traditional sense, they are not scholars, but they are people who understand Islam, who understand the practice of Islam, and a great deal, or at least a considerable deal of the theory of Islam, who know how to blend both and explain both to children. There are also people who are interested in so many fields: literature, poetry, art, science, government, and so on, history. You would say there are people who approach the subject from a multidisciplinary perspective. We've had an Islamic perspectives teacher who actually studied engineering. We had one who studied biological sciences. We have one who is a lawyer by training. We have one who studied business management, another who studied English education. So there's a great deal of personal interest and the desire to help children learn about Islam in a practical way.
I haven't seen any Islamic perspectives teachers anywhere other than the New Horizons College. So are you training some people to take on the mantle so that other schools around Nigeria can take advantage of this specialized perspective on education?
Yes. People from other schools come to New Horizons College and they ask about Islamic perspectives. They watch some classes. They look at how we've designed our own curriculum. They sometimes ask for books. What kind of books do we use? They learn a little bit, then they go to their schools and they try and reproduce what they have learned or to modify it if they wish. In instances where we've had an opportunity to interact again with those teachers, we would check to see how are they applying it. Are they retaining the spirit of the subject, or are they going back to the more traditional way of teaching maybe Islamic studies? So sometimes we have time for feedback, for review.
Right, that's wonderful. I mean, it really is. It gladdens my heart to think that people are really thinking outside the box, because obviously national curriculum is important and so on. But I know that in New Horizons College, Sister Maryam, for instance, there are 16 initiatives that you have taken which are over and above the national curriculum, and that enriches the education that you provide to the children who attend New Horizons School and then in New Horizons College. Could you elaborate on some of the others? How did you manage to home into those gaps and then provide for it?
Well, we actually call it Beyond Academic Excellence here in New Horizons College, what goes beyond the national curriculum and what the final examination that they're going to sit for at the end of the day is going to require. We want them to have broad general knowledge, and that's part of our mission statement, is that they have broad general and Islamic knowledge. Amongst the various extracurricular subjects that we offer include public speaking training. We try to ensure that our students, our learners, become very self-confident and learn to be very eloquent when they stand in public to speak, and learn all the tricks and techniques of being able to express themselves and communicate their message in a very effective manner. So we give them lessons on public speaking, and this goes on for at least a year. Then we also have other things such as premarital counseling. We call it Girl Talk and Guys Gist. This is targeted to the older teenagers amongst our students.
Why was that necessary? What made you feel that that's an area which we must introduce to the children?
Well, unfortunately, the reality is, like, we are running a boarding school. Many teenagers are lacking an adult who is experienced, who has the moral background to give them the best advice on how to interact with members of the opposite gender in the Islamic manner, what is halal, what is acceptable. And not only that, a lot of them have so many boy-girl relationship issues and concerns and worries, or are going through relationships currently that are bothering them or weighing them down. So we use this medium to have a dialogue with them, share the do's and don'ts, and also hopefully try and equip them with what to expect when they move into the tertiary institutions, with regard to obviously advances from members of the opposite gender, how to handle it, how to politely turn somebody down who's putting some form of pressure on them, and also other realities when they go beyond the New Horizons College compound, realities that exist in universities such as cults, and how to handle that, what to look out for, what to be careful about, and the kind of friends you move around with and how they could influence you in a positive or negative way when it comes to the circle you move with. And we also go into the message that you're communicating in the way you dress, the way you talk, how you relate with members of the opposite gender, what message, what signals are you sending out, so that you don't find yourself getting in trouble or giving the wrong impression about who you really are, or what your background is, or what you're interested in.
Is this the sort of gap that you identified with the help of parents? Did parents ask you to do it because you're in a boarding school, or did you consult the children? I mean, I've understood, if I understood it correctly, that you have involved a whole variety of people in addressing this issue after identifying it and homing in to fine-tune it to make sure that it's appropriate and relevant for each age group and each gender.
Yes. Well, this was not based on parental request, actually. We realized that this is just a reality, that they do need to be equipped with the right skills in how to have these relationships, because many of them, their parents don't tell them how to relate, or when they do, you find maybe the kids don't relate to what is being told. It's just, my parent is telling me this. But to practicalize it and use examples based on what we see them do here is something that immediately they can connect with and can understand. And the children love it. They get so excited that somebody is ready to talk to them and answer questions they have. So we give them an opportunity to write down a list of questions they want us to answer. Some are very sensitive and very personal questions. There are some that we don't go into. We tell them, look, when you're about to get married, talk to us. We're ready to answer any question you have. But other general questions or issues that they raise, we make sure if we can't answer them directly, like Sister Salatu and I are two of the facilitators of this talk, this Girl Talk Guys Gist, we ask males, let's say it's a male audience, the male students, we ask other individuals whom we know are very honest and trustworthy and reliable, and they will give them the best advice possible to address the students and answer their questions. So we do everything to cover all grounds.
So there are other aspects. As I mentioned 16.
Yeah.
There's the nasiha in
Yes.
groups of age and aptitude as well as gender.
Yes.
Is that something that came out of this discussion with the youngsters?
I think Sister Salatu can share how the nasiha started. Yeah.
Well, the nasiha, giving nasiha has been a sort of tradition in the school, and it's done in several ways. There's the nasiha where, right after Zuhur prayers, a student is appointed or asked to give nasiha. There is a schedule drawn up for that. So that particular one is meant to help students learn how to stand up and speak to others, to a large group, about what to do, what not to do, give advice, remind one another. Then there's the nasiha that was actually initiated by the students themselves. That's the one that usually comes before Maghrib, traditionally, typically, where students may stand up and say, I would like to talk about this, I'd like to talk about that. In many cases, the students themselves will pick on an issue that is relevant for that moment to all the students, something they've observed going on and they want to give advice, they want to remind one another about it. Then there is the nasiha that students sometimes give just because they feel there is a need to. So you might actually have nasiha more like one-on-one, not to a large group. So we have the nasiha initiated by the students, then you have the nasiha initiated by the school itself.
The thing that really strikes me whenever I come to New Horizons College and New Horizons School is that the youngsters are really confident, much more so than children I meet around the world, and they have self-esteem, and they have mostly the thing that I really admire, the courage to come up to you, because whenever you have asked me to talk one-to-one to children, this comes through. They have the courage to speak very, very openly about anything they want. How do you get that? I want you to put answer to that question together with another one, the both of you, and that is, people must say to you, well, you're in a boarding school, and it's easier in the boarding school. You know, I want you to put an answer to both those questions, please. Is it just as easy to add those dimensions to the education of the children, no matter whether you're a boarder or a day student? I mean, you must have some day students here too. So please, can you help us to understand how you feel and how you tackle that and how deal with that?
Alright. In answer to the first question, how do we get our students to be so ready to express themselves, so confident? I wouldn't say that we had a deliberate policy where we said we wanted this for our students, but I know over time, either based on one issue or the other, we've always said we want our students to be able to express themselves, to say what they think, to say what they believe. And the way the staff interact with them, it's a culture that the staff allow the students to express themselves. Teachers do that, the hostel staff do that. So such that if students have a problem, for instance, with one teacher, they're usually comfortable enough to go to some other teacher and say, I have this problem. And maybe I think the teacher hates me. I think that's a universal problem. Yeah. She doesn't like me, or he said this to me, or I deserve this score. He gave me something far lower. And in some cases, the students are advised, here's what you do, go back to that teacher. They are guided on how to start a sort of negotiation to resolve the issue. And some students actually take that route. The fact that they are given so many opportunities to speak publicly, Nasiha, or on assembly days when they have the General Assembly, there's always a slot for students to say something, either from the press club to read the news, or from Dawa club to give some reminder, or from the English department. Students always have an opportunity to speak, to say something. When we have social occasions, we encourage our students a lot to act plays that are designed for a Muslim audience, to step up on stage and sing nasheeds. So I think it's just more of a culture, something that came in little bits until they are the way they are. You even see them better than we see them. Yes.
I think to add to what Sister Salatu has said, another very important key point is the fact that we have established trust with the kids, that when they do come forward, we respond to them. We don't just brush aside their concerns or downplay it, but they actually see results to their concerns, that there is an outcome to what they raised. If their complaints are about a teacher, we make sure that sometimes if it's serious enough that we call the teacher and draw his attention or her attention to these areas that the concerns were raised or areas for improvement, and we address them. So they have trusted us that we will do the right thing.
So how do you deal with this day student and boarder, challenge? I'm sure you must have some answers. Can you help our viewers to understand that it's equally relevant?
Absolutely. The experiences of the boarding student, of course, is much greater, the influence we have over them. But our day students are with us right through till late evening, because from the time they come into the compound around 7:15 or so, that is the day students, they're with us right through till around 6 o'clock. It's either at the end of the day they end it with sports, or on alternate days they end it with Islamia, which is Quranic recitation. And so their interactions with the boarding students are very constant.
So it's a much longer day.
It's a longer day.
For whether you're a day student or not.
Exactly. And they attend the nasihas in the hostel because they pray Zuhur prayer with us, where the students get up and speak in front of their peers. And so practically, I'd say it's only nighttime that the kids may miss out on some additional things that we may do with them. But when it comes to counseling, it's open to both boarders and day students. And when it comes to imparting the academic excellence, broad general and Islamic knowledge, and the high moral ethos, which is our mission statement, we try to make sure this is done throughout the day in all your interactions with everybody, not only in the classroom, even in the corridor, when you meet with somebody. If you're not doing the right thing, somebody will correct you, and so on. Yeah.
One of the things that Sister Salatu you mentioned earlier was staff. That's one of the major factors in establishing anything, maintaining anything, monitoring, evaluating. You know, if you collectively do it, it's so much easier. And if everybody is on the same page, as it were, then things become more easy to manage and to ensure that they are in place. So I'd like to hear a little more about, from you first of all, as person in charge of HR, how do you take everybody with you? What are the processes and procedures that are in place to ensure that from induction of a new member of staff to ongoing relevant staff development programs, how do you keep it bubbling? How do you keep this ethos going in the way that whenever I come, I have to say, wow, subhanallah, you know, how do you get that?
Well, from the time the staff is employed, the orientation is very critical. It's key. And my dear sister Salatu here is one of those who's instrumental in ensuring that they get the proper orientation, that they go through the manuals, they understand it thoroughly, and then there is a discussion about the culture here, what you are coming to find, and understanding that, and I use a term that was used by a staff in the school once, who said, out there it's business as usual, in here at New Horizons it's business unusual, because what goes on out there is probably not up to the standard they would wish it would be. And in addition to the orientation, there is regular follow-up. We try to make sure we attach them to key staff that will guide them and share. And so we have a senior master who takes over once she has finished her orientation in adding to what has already been done with the staff when they join. Then we have regular meetings with our staff. We have a tea break on alternate weeks and a staff meeting on alternate weeks. So at least 4 days during the month, we have a session where the staff get to talk. They hear whatever we have to say, but at the same time they get to express their concerns or their areas that they feel we could improve upon. And there is a big wide open door policy here. There is no fear to come forward and express your concerns and make suggestions. And the good thing is you find staff have brought ideas forward that they've seen brought to life. Simple ideas, some very detailed, but the fact that we're ready to listen and we absolutely feel there's so much we can learn from each other is a critical thing. Another thing that is very important in establishing this kind of bond and relationship with the staff, which translates into this good relationship and seeing the output of what we hope they will do in all their interactions with the students, is we focus a lot on the staff welfare. In addition to doing our best to pay them well and make sure we try to help them achieve some sort of financial independence, we are concerned about their well-being, and we take care of their medical bills. 60% of their medical bills is taken care of by the school. We do a lot of surprise bonuses and potlucks and have any excuse to party where we get together and eat together and share laughter and happiness and, you know, show our appreciation to them because they make so many sacrifices to make the school successful. So we make sure in every opportunity, every interaction, that we continue to grow together and show appreciation for their dedication and commitment. Sister Salatu may want to add to that.
Sister Salatu, one of the questions that occurs to me, my observation is that right from the senior level, you have members of staff who are not of the Islamic faith. They are not Muslims. They are either Christians or have other faiths or have no faith. Now that is unusual in an Islamic environment. Not that it's not accepted, but it is unusual when you are being so successful as New Horizon. Can you tell us how that has developed and what are the factors that keep that bonding, as you put it, going at a high status?
Okay. Two simple words: mutual respect. When a new member of staff is employed and the person comes in, if the person is not a Muslim, part of the books, the handouts given at the orientation stage include some simple books that help them understand the basic things about Muslims, Muslim belief, and so on. This helps them know who we are, basically. The other thing we try to do is to always ensure we never ever give the impression that we have any disregard for their faith. We give as much respect as possible. If, for instance, there is a reason why we want staff to come into work on Sundays, the Christian staff are usually given a concession where possible. Where it becomes absolutely necessary for a Christian staff to come in, the person is always asked, when do you have your service hours? So you can come in before or after that time. So little things like that, just ensuring there is understanding. You know what my faith is, I know what yours is. And we show that we do know we understand. And ensuring that that mutual respect is maintained has helped a great deal. Because we believe that knowledge can be obtained from anywhere, from anybody. Knowledge is knowledge. If it's mathematics, 2 plus 2 is 2 plus 2, whether it's a Muslim saying it or a Christian saying it. So as long as we maintain the high moral ethos, which is something we find present both in Islam and Christianity, and so long as we maintain the purely Islamic elements, then we feel there is nothing wrong whatsoever if some of our staff are Christians.
What's the level of contribution that staff generally, I mean, you are obviously senior members of staff, what is the level of contribution from the rest of the staff? It seems to me that you have a team approach and that everybody contributes. But what is that level? Are you satisfied? And the second question I would like to then finish off with is, what's next? You know, are you looking at anything particular which will help you to get even beyond this excellence that you've obviously established within New Horizons?
Well, the other members of staff contribute a lot. I can't talk in terms of percentages because we haven't carried out any database research, but I know their contributions are very, very important and they do contribute regularly. For instance, whenever we have our staff meetings, the time is usually equally given to the management staff to say what they have to say, then to the teaching staff, non-academic staff, to make any relevant contributions. In many cases, some issues are taken before the general meeting, and teachers are asked, you know, what do you think, what's your opinion, do you think this is a good idea, will it work? And sometimes they are the ones who shoot the idea down. The idea actually comes from management, but they are the ones who say, oh, no, that's not going to work. And once they can give good reasons why it won't work, then the idea is put aside. Also, we have a sort of opened up policy. I would say this actually comes from the top all the way down, from Haja Aisha herself, where she's very relaxed with everybody, she's very free. She actually walks into your office to sit and talk with you and discuss issues with you. The principal has the same policy. My office is open, hers is open. Our offices are usually crowded. People constantly streaming in and out to say, what about this, what about that, we'd like this, we'd like that. So they are very active in ensuring that policies are followed through, in also helping to generate some policies. They make observations, they talk about it. So their contributions are really important.
One of the things that occurs to me is that over the last 15 years,
yes,
since you started looking at how to enrich the education of the children who come through your hands and, you know, through this wonderful institution, there must have been hundreds of ideas that members of staff, students, you know, parents, everybody around you throws at you, hundreds of ideas that, I mean, I know of schools that consider the ideas and throw them away because they want to concentrate on the national curriculum. Results matter, league tables matter. If they don't have 100%, my child is not getting it, I'll take him away. You know, that sort of a mentality. It's a mindset. But over the 15 years, you must have hundreds of ideas that you've thrown away. Or you have maintained in your bank of ideas yet to be touched upon. But you've taken on these 16. What I want to know, just briefly, is what sort of proportion of the ideas that you are implementing already have come from maybe staff, what proportion from children, and what proportion from senior members of staff or proprietors?
Okay, well that would mean a work in history, but broadly speaking, I would say, for instance, Islamic perspectives as a subject in itself came from Hajia Aisha Lemu, but the form it has now, its present form, is largely based on input from staff who, though now they are at the management position, at the time they were making this input, they were actually just junior staff or new staff, you could say. A program like the public speaking training course came from staff, and it was encouraged by parents who learnt about it and then said, you really need to keep doing that, and the students. The premarital counseling, the pre-university preparation program, those also came from staff, and students' response to those programs have helped to sustain it. There are some other initiatives that we didn't really mention, like the personal development course, came from staff. But in all cases, you would find it's a response of the students and their parents that have helped to sustain it. Otherwise, we would have said this idea is a failure, better throw it away. So at the end of the day, it's a melting pot of everybody's idea.
Yeah. No, it's a collaborative.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a collaborative. And I want to add to one of the questions you had with regard to staff contribution. We have been given the liberty here by the head of education, Aisha Lemu, to be free to experiment. She has described the school as an experimental school. And that liberty to try and be creative, to express your thoughts in a physical way, has given us so many inspirational ideas that many people who come from outside see and leave feeling, wow, this is different. And it's all in the fine details. I think that's one thing we pride ourselves in, is that there are some little unique things that you see all around you that just makes you realize, okay, this is different, this is sweet, but it leaves you with just a feeling. And a small example I could give you came recently. Somebody gave a nasiha to the students, and the story he narrated inspired one of the staff who was listening to start taking little cardboard paper. The staff's name is Abdul, and he started writing some of the most important messages he learned, like stick to the road, don't lose focus. And we just got up came one evening, and actually it was Salatu who called me and said she was sending me a picture, and I got a picture on my phone of a cardboard hanging off a tree, from a tree.
Nailed to the tree.
Nailed to the tree, that's it. And there were several over the compound, in the boys' hostel, in the girls' hostel, on the walkways leading to the school block, and with these inspirational quotes. And she now told me it was Abdul who had put them up, and he didn't ask me, he didn't ask her, he just did it. And she thought this was so great. She shared with me, and I said, I love it. She and I started communicating back and forth that we will take Abdul's permission to take this to another level and have wrought iron metal
like
shapes.
it.
Yes, you do. We loved it.
Yes,
and so she and I now, when she said go to work, be creative, come up with ideas, she suggested how about even various fruit hanging from trees, and we thought, great, have different shapes. So we called the man who does the wrought iron work and printed various pictures of fruits, grapes, bananas, watermelon with the teeth mark, and so on. And we plan, he's working on it right now, to inscribe various quotes on it. But the one I love the most was Salatu's idea, which was when she saw a picture of grapes, and she was saying, because I told her I wanted each grape to have its own loop. She said we could put names of Allah in the loops so that we would have that written, and we will hang them on trees and let the kids, as they walk by, see these different shapes and quotes and motivational words to keep them, this top of their mind and keep this in mind. So that's an idea that came from a staff. And we are so excited and motivated. You can see I've got goosebumps because I love it.
I think also
Yeah.
about some ideas from staff.
Yeah.
There is this teacher, the head of the humanities department, or what you might call social science department, who said, science, maths, and these other subjects are given such a prominent place. There are so many national and state level competitions for all the subjects. There is nothing really for students who are studying art, humanities, literature, or history or geography. So he then came to the management and said he would like to initiate an inter-school competition based on this, so that the students who are studying those subjects don't feel as though they are studying subjects that have no importance. So he started it and he's let it run for about 3 years now. Yeah. It's gotten to the level where we even said as a school, in the interest of fairness, we will not participate in the competition. We will simply invite schools, we will organize it, we will give out the prizes, but it's to give them that sense that whether you're studying English or fine art, that these things are important. Yeah. So it's an idea that came from a staff member, based on students' complaints and comments, and then management said, just go ahead and do that.
Ladies, I could sit here and listen to you for a long time, but I want a final answer from both of you on what next?
Okay. What next? Well, the current word, the buzzword right now is creativity, where we are looking at every aspect of the school, academic work, hostel life, even sports, and trying to see how do we bring more creative ideas. How do we add to what's already there? How do we put in what's not there yet? How to make everything better? Because creativity is about originating ideas. The ideas don't have to be original in and of themselves, but if they are new in that context, if they improve the quality of whatever is being done at that moment, then that's creativity. So we are even looking at how to help young boys learn self-control, anger management, when to not cross the border from competition to confrontation. And we are looking at using sports as a training ground for that. So that's taking the hostel life and bringing sports and blending them together. Then also creativity with regard to how the teachers learn and teach. We want to start looking at their ideas. Are these ideas fresh? Can you do something differently? Can you do something better? So creativity is the next thing for us now.
Alhamdulillah.
I would say for me, the next thing in addition to creativity is to start using the formula which you shared with us a few days ago of Kepodra. And I think this time I'll have the wheels turn and ask you to put it so perfectly and summarize each point of this acronym so that everybody really understands from the source what this means, because I was truly moved, and sincerely Sister Salatu and I have been talking about how to actually start practicalizing it. But if you could please help us just explain it briefly.
Thank you very much. I shall do that with the greatest of pleasures. But at the moment, what I want to do is thank my dear sisters for sharing with us this idea that education is not within a box. IBR was established in order to promote the best of ideas in taking the Islamic education movement internationally, globally, further and further. You've heard how here at New Horizons College, New Horizons School, Sunrise School, here in Nigeria, they are being so creative, so wonderfully creative. And yet, you've heard them, in answer to my question, they want to be more creative. Now that's where we are at today. We would like all those who are involved in the education of young people, whether they're Muslims or not, to really get onto the forum of IBR and contribute their ideas. No matter how small, no matter how much you feel it's not worth considering, if it's working with children, if it's enhancing the quality of learning and teaching, then we want to know so that we can share it across the globe. We want to do that with the help of our newly established forum on IBR website. Please join us and make the future generations better and better and better and better. I thank Allah that He has given us the opportunity to be together with such wonderful, creative people, hearts and minds. And I thank Allah for all of you who are part of IBR. And I pray that we can follow in the footsteps of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to follow his mission to the end of our days, because that is the legacy he's left with us. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.